Whenever life would start getting good for me, God would throw a nice anchor and stop me right there.
Do it anyway is a mindset trick that you can use when you start to feel excuses rolling up.
The one you need to live with, wake up to every day is that right there. Okay? Beat the sun up, folks. You got to beat the sun up. If you can't beat up the roll up of the sun up, you're going to get beat up in life.
And whenever you find things that you're comfortable doing, you're going away from the journey of life.
I feel like most people in their lives are being allowed to live small. You're allowed to live a small life. Everyone around you would like you to live small. Just do this. You're good at that. Man, take it easy. Chill. When's enough enough? Like, come on, brother. You know, all these messages you get is basically saying, hey, man, live small. Life's not a big deal. Live small, enjoy it, chill, smoke a little weed, do whatever you want, right? Like, it's just this get-by thing in life. And there's got to be some people who go, no, you're supposed to do something great with your life. You were put here for a purpose. Your way, the way you were born, the way you were raised, your background, your experiences, your giftedness all prepared you in your way for right now. And you're supposed to do something great with your life. You weren't born here to be average and ordinary. And there's all this messaging that you're average and ordinary, and you're average and ordinary because you belong there, and it's probably someone else's fault you're average and ordinary too. And I'm like, no, it's your life. You're in control. It's no one else's fault, and you're supposed to do something magnificent. That's the consciousness aspect. The last 1,000 years on Earth, doing something great has been reserved to this one little group of people, 1% of the population. They're supposed to do something great. They're supposed to live their dreams. We're supposed to watch them, cheer for them, wear their jersey, watch their award show, comment on their posts, clean their houses, right? Feed them in their restaurants. No. The fact of the matter is, you can do those things. You can change your life. And I'm sick and tired of this hero worship. You live small, cheer for everybody else who lives big. No, if you're a school teacher, be the best school teacher. Change the world by those little lives you're affecting. If you're on social media, change the world. Play big. You will never do it wrong if your decision is to do the bigger thing than the smaller thing. That's what I would tell you. Stop playing small. Stop thinking small, and don't let anybody tell you you should be small.
So listen to me. There are those of you who said, I want to be a millionaire. I want to be the best at this company, right? But your value system says you believe in sleep more than you believe in grinding. Your value system says you are a consumer and not a producer. That you're spending more money than you're making. Why? Because you're a consumer, but you're reading all the books and you're saying everything the books are saying. But those books are not in alignment with your values. And if you're going to go to the next level, your values are going to have to change.
What if I told you this was the last Monday morning of your life? What if I told you die this week? Would you complain about your crap job or that test you don't want to take? I doubt it. You would go much higher level thinking. Well, that's really what it takes. It takes understanding that if you're not pumped right now, if you're begrudging what you're about to do, if you're not looking forward to it, look, I respect practicality. You got to go through school because your parents want to. You got to pay your rent. You got student loans. I get it. But please recognize the world we're living in. We're living in a world where there's so much more opportunity. This internet thing created way more opportunity for all of us. Way more. I mean, look, you might not even be alive. Like, your mom and dad could have had sex like 3 minutes later and you wouldn't even exist and you're complaining. You could have ended up being a bus, a tree. I just don't get the mentality of being head down sad on a Monday morning. I'm going to make you Saturday Monday morning. That's what I want to do every morning, and that's what I want from you. Please take a step back and think about how awesome it actually is. And then recognize that you can attack the world in a totally different way because you were lucky enough to be born during this era.
So you have said to yourself, okay, I'm going to talk to my boss today about that thing that I've been avoiding talking to them about. Or maybe you've said something like, I'm going to go to the gym today or tomorrow or whatever. And then the moment comes where you've got to have that conversation. Or the moment comes where it's time to pack up your bag and leave your desk and go to the gym. And what always happens? You don't feel like it. I bet there are plenty of you watching that have made a commitment that, I'm not going to have a drink tonight. And then guess what happens when you get home? You don't feel like not drinking. You feel like having a drink. And so here's what Do It Anyway has done for me. The idea that I just do it anyway has pushed me to realize and to recognize that there are a lot of moments where there are things in my life that I really want to do, I need to do, I should do, but when the moment comes, I don't feel like it. And so I pull out this idea of, you know what, I'm just going to do it anyway. It's raining outside. I said I would go for a short run. I don't feel like it. I'm going to do it anyway. It's 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm tired. It's cold. I laid out my yoga clothes, but now I don't feel like it. What do? I do it anyway. When you start to say to yourself, I'm going to do it anyway, what happens is something really cool. You acknowledge that there are feelings that you have that are trying to swoop in and hijack you. You acknowledge them and you basically say, guess what? I'm going to do it anyway.
Problems are basically the building block of happiness. And that is really counterintuitive to most people, because most people think of happiness as like no problems, you know, sitting on the beach with a pina colada, doing whatever. And but the truth is that we need some sort of struggle in our life. And the point I try to make in the book is that the key to living a good life isn't getting rid of struggle, it's finding good struggles. Struggles that invigorate you, struggles that feel important to you, struggles that can contribute to the people around you. Because that's where meaning comes from, and ultimately meaning is, you know, what we all need. If people listening to this like feel stuck in some way, generally when people feel stuck, it's because they're in a situation where they believe that they don't have the power to solve whatever's going on in their life. And the truth is that you always have the power to A, react to whatever's going on in your life, or B, create the meaning around whatever's happening in your life. So it's usually just a matter of first changing perspective and then B, doing something to set about solving it. And again, it's what gets people stuck is that they want to eliminate their problems. It's not about eliminating problems. It's about simply finding something more meaningful, more worthwhile.
Obviously, he was about as successful as anyone could be. I mean, he was a successful guy in so many aspects, and yet he killed himself. He said in this book, I wanted adventures. I wanted to go up the Nung River to the heart of darkness in Cambodia. I wanted to ride out into a desert on camelback, sand and dunes in every direction, eat whole roasted lamb with my fingers. I wanted to kick snow off my boots in a mafia nightclub in Russia. I wanted to play with automatic weapons in Phnom Penh, recapture the past in a small oyster village in France, step into a seedy, neon-lit pulqueria in rural Mexico. I wanted to run roadblocks in the middle of the night, blowing past angry militia with a handful of hurled Marlboro packs. Experience fear, excitement, wonder. I wanted kicks, the kind of melodramatic thrills and chills I'd yearned for since childhood. The kind of adventure I'd found as a little boy in the pages of my Tintin comic books. I wanted to see the world, and I wanted the world to be just like the movies. That's what Anthony Bourdain said. Just like the movies. But you know what? To me, the world is not like the movies. The movies aren't real. They don't exist. But you do. And this life it's better than any movie there is. Movies are supposed to provoke emotion. They're supposed to make you feel something. But I have a better idea. Go out into the world and actually feel it. Go feel joy and love and triumph and rapture and ecstasy and glory. Go feel those things. And you know, with those feelings, there will be other feelings as well. There will be sorrow and pain and sadness and desolation and suffering. There'll be all those feelings too. But you know what? That's okay. That's okay. Take both sides. Feel all of it. That's what life is. Those feelings, those emotions, those highs and those lows, those are life.
As I said, 70% of the time, people live in stress, and living in stress is living in survival.
We've all been in that place where we're depressed and we're down. Now what's interesting is, how do we treat that? What do we do with that? Well, what most people will do is they go take a drug. Or if people are really feeling down in life, they'll go drink some alcohol or maybe smoke a cigarette.
And the definition of stress is when your brain and body are knocked out of balance, out of homeostasis. The stress response is what the body innately does to return itself back to order.
But the truth is, if you look at your life and you were to write down all the emotions you experienced in the week, both good and bad, each of those emotions has tied to it a certain way of using your body. And if you keep using your body that way over and over again, you'll keep feeling that way.
There's one thing that if you did every single day, no joke, it would make an extraordinary difference in whatever mental health issue you're struggling with, and that is exercise. And the reason you've got to exercise every day is because what we know about human beings is that when you physically move, your physiology changes, and that changes your brain.
You've got to detach. You've got to detach from the problems or the stress that you're experiencing so that you can get that perspective of them. Now, there's a couple different types of stress. Now, if it's something that you can control that's causing you stress, well, why aren't you getting control of it? Generally, it's a lack of discipline. So you gotta have the discipline to grab control and make it happen. And when I say you need discipline for that, what that means is these stresses that you're avoiding, they're not gonna go away if you avoid them. So take the discipline to face the stressful situation. Get ahead of it. Don't be afraid of it. Now, there's also stress that's caused by things that you cannot control. And if you remember talking earlier about artillery and how horrible that was, and what made it so horrible was that there's no control over it. So if you can't control something and you can't get control of it, you have to at least embrace what you can. And I'm not saying you're going to embrace artillery shelling, but I'll tell you what, there's only so much you can do, and you cannot completely eliminate it. But you can't control it, so why are you going to worry about it? Why are you going to stress about it?
Getting your heart rate up, getting outside, breathing, feeling connected, getting out of your house, which may make you feel depressed and trapped. Doing that every day, that physical push. You don't have to run. You don't have to go to an aerobics class. Get outside with your dog in the woods. Walk with a good friend for 2 or 3 miles. Doing that every single day not only moves your body, which changes your mind, it gets you out of your physical environment, which is one of the things that people with depression tend to have a hard time doing. And it also creates a bit of momentum and a bit of a routine in your life. You take on just that single thing. Get outside and exercise every single day, as if your life depends upon it, because you know what? It does. Your brain needs it, your body needs it, your mental health needs it.
Meditation was fantastic. Meditation is the biggest gift that I can give anyone. And I would say more than anything, it is whatever reason for success I've had. Because it allows one, back to the 2 U's, I'll clarify. What I mean is that in your mind, we think, what do you want? And the reality is, when you look at the neuroscience and psychology, that there are different parts of your brain that want different things. And so, in the simplest sense, there is the logical part of your brain that you're conscious of. It's called the conscious. And you think you're being logical and you want to make those decisions. And then there's the subliminal, below the limbic system, part of the brain, which is the emotional, and it's not as conscious to you, but it has more of an influence on you than really the logical one. And so they're not aligned. And so when you're experiencing that pain, or let's say the ego, right, there were 2 main things. You got an ego barrier and a blind spot barrier. If you can get past your ego barrier and you get past your blind spot barrier, you can accomplish anything, because you also know that you don't have to do everything, you don't have to figure it out yourself. You can take in from other people the different ways to approach things in the best possible way. And so the realization that we all are really struggling with ourselves, and to think which is in control. Meditation helps to deal with the alignment of those 2 things, because both are valuable. In other words, intuition, imagination, the things we really love, come from our subliminal us's, right? Our needs, whatever they may be. They come from here, that subliminal. They may be valuable. They may be damaging. You don't know the difference. And so when they come up and you're looking at those with your logical mind and you can align those things, you're probably in good shape. If you can do that alignment between the subliminal and the logical, and you can do that with other people, so that you can triangulate with other people and say, does that make sense? And get alignment. That alignment is the path to the future, because you only have to know what the best things to do are. You don't have to have them all come up from your head. And for God's sakes, don't be overly opinionated, because just because you have that opinion, it doesn't mean it's true. So that's where the two U's and the alignment really is so important.
As I said, 70% of the time, people live in stress, and living in stress is living in survival. And the definition of stress is when your brain and body are knocked out of balance, out of homeostasis. The stress response is what the body innately does to return itself back to order. When you turn on the stress response, and you can't turn it off, now you're headed for disease, because no organism in nature can live in emergency mode for that extended period of time. It's a scientific fact that the hormones of stress downregulate genes and create disease, long-term effects. Human beings, because of the size of the neocortex, we can turn on the stress response just by thought alone. We can think about our problems and turn on those chemicals. That means then our thoughts could make us sick. So if it's possible that our thoughts could make us sick, is it possible then our thoughts could make us well? The answer is absolutely yes. So then, what are the emotions that are connected to survival? Let's name them. Anger, aggression, hostility, hatred, competition, fear, anxiety, worry, pain, suffering, guilt, shame, unworthiness, envy, jealousy. Those are all created by the hormones of stress. And psychology calls them normal human states of consciousness. I call those altered states of consciousness. So then, we tend to remember those traumatic events more, because in survival, you better be ready if it happens again. And when the survival gene is switched on, you could have 10 really great things that happen to you in your day. And you just have one bad thing that happens, and you cannot take your attention off that unhappy thing, because the survival gene is switched on. Many years ago, after the DNA helix was discovered by Watson and Crick, they said the blueprints of life, all diseases are created from genes. Turns out less than 5%, more like 1% of people on the planet are born with a genetic condition like type 1 diabetes or Tay-Sachs disease or sickle cell anemia. The other 95 to 99% are created by lifestyle and by choices. You can take two identical twins, exact same genome. One dies at 51, the other one dies at 85. Same gene, different environment. So all of a sudden they said, we lied. That was wrong. It's not genes that create disease. It's the environment that signals the gene that creates disease. Well, okay. But that's not the whole truth, too, because you could have two people working side by side in the same factory. One gets cancer after being exposed to a carcinogenic for 25 years. Both working for 25 years, the other one has no cancer at all. So there must be some internal order that would cause one person to not get it while another one does. So is it possible then, if the environment signals the gene, and it does, and the end product of an experience in the environment is called an emotion, can you signal the gene ahead of the environment by embracing an elevated emotion? We've done the research on this. We've measured 7,500 different gene expressions in a group of people that came to an advanced event for 4 days. And we had them doing a seated meditation, a walking meditation, a laying down meditation, a standing meditation. And at the end of 4 days, just 4 days, the common 8 genes that were upregulated, 2 genes to suppress cancer cells and tumor growth, 2 genes for neurogenesis, the growth of new neurons in response to novel experiences and learning, the gene that signals stem cells to go to damaged areas and repair them, the gene for oxidative stress was upregulated. We started seeing all these genes that are very, very healthy to cause the body to flourish. Imagine if people were doing that for 3 months. We also measured telomeres, the little shoestrings on the end of DNA that tell us our biological age. We asked people to do the work, meditation, 5 out of 7 days for 60 days. Measure their telomeres that determine their biological age. 60 days later, 74% of the people lengthen their telomeres. 40% significant change. 20% a very remarkable change. That means that they got a little bit of their life back. If it had lengthened by 10%, they got 10% of their life back.
When you start anything, when you start out on a path to anywhere, whether it be to learn something new, to create a business, to become more in shape, the first step, the first day, the first minute, you're excited. You're like, yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm going to kick ass, right? And the next day comes and you're like, man, this is a little tougher. And then you take another step and another step. And maybe you get to Thursday or Friday and you're like, this is pretty hard, man. And then what happens is the enthusiasm from the beginning of the process starts to fade out.
You have a lot to offer. The fact that you're still here means that your business is not through yet. People don't do what they know in life, but what they do is they operate within the context of the vision they have of themselves.
No matter how big your dream is, make small, tiny steps ahead.
You must change what's possible for you. You, and only you, are the subject that impacts the burning desire in your imagination.
I'm talking about concrete commitment. I'm talking about the commitment that says, I am going to stay true to what I said I would do long after the mood that I've set it in has left. Because I think we all know in this room, character is not something that we inherit. Character is something we got to wake up every single day. We got to fight and we got to build it.
Never, ever, ever give up. You can't let them get you down. You can't let the critics and the naysayers get in the way of your dreams.
So you got to ask yourself, what's your why? What motivates you? What pushes you? What drives you? And if that thing is eternal, if nobody has to call you, if nobody has to prize you, if nobody has to reward you, if you are self-motivated and self-regulated, you can have it, you can be it, you can do it. It's necessary you take responsibility for it, that you make it happen, that you don't give up, that you don't take any objection or disappointment or defeats personally, that you keep on keeping on, that you don't decide that I can't make it because you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. You cannot give up because it ain't what you see. You cannot give up. When you get to the point where enough is enough, when you get to the point where it hurt real bad, when you get to the point you can't take it no more, when you get to that point, doors start opening, opportunities start happening. But what you cannot do is you cannot quit during the process.
The earlier you get in the game and get on track, the better life you're going to have.
It's you. You got to make that happen.
The first step before anybody else in the world believes it is you have to believe it. There's no reason to have a plan B because it distracts from plan A. I want to represent an idea. I want to represent possibilities. I want to represent the idea that you really can make what you want. One of my favorite books is The Alchemist, Paulo Coelho. And I just believe that. I believe that I can create whatever I want to create.
Pain is not your enemy. Pain is your servant. And pain is telling you that there's a problem here and you need to get it fixed. You need to drag it out of the dark and you need to deal with this, and you have to decide enough is enough. It's time for a new direction. It's time to say that's it. Turn to somebody and say that's it. Passivity is a spirit, and it'll kill you. It'll kill your relationships. It'll kill your home. It'll kill your marriage. If we just sit back and do nothing, it'll kill you.
There's a redemptive power that making a choice has, you know, rather than feeling like you're at effect to all the things that are happening. Make a choice. Like, you just decide what it's going to be, who you're going to be, how you're going to do it. Just decide. And then from that point, the universe is going to get out your way.
Most people dabble in a million things, they master nothing, and they wonder why they're unfulfilled. In people's lives, there's only maybe half dozen, 7, 8 categories that really matter. Most people, you know, they major in minor things. They focus on stuff that doesn't matter. They know more about this celebrity going in and out of rehab than they do about their own personal development. So if I had no other message to offer your viewers, and you let me give it to them right now, I'll tell you what I believe. I believe our lives are controlled by one force.
Your brain is divided into 2 halves. Each half of your brain has millions of factory workers on each side. At the forefront of each one of those factories is a forming positive, and you got forming negative. You're the boss of the factory. You wake up in the morning and you say, man, I don't feel myself today. Forming negative hears that. He said, hey, the boss just woke up and said he's having a bad day today. Let's get to work. And your day starts tumbling into what you ordered. You could wake up in the morning and you say, you know what? Today is going to be a great day today. Man, thank you, Lord, for waking me up this morning. Forming positive turns around and goes, Steve's having a great day today. He's expecting some wonderful things to happen. And man, let's get it going. And they start manufacturing thoughts. You have got to change the way you think. It is the whole determining factor of where you go in life.
This is the truth, is that so many of us say that we want to change, but many of us are unwilling to pay the price to change. And really, all of change comes from not focusing on what you can't control. It comes from focusing on what you can control. All of change has a price tag attached to it. That today, each and every one of us, we have to count the cost. Do we actually want to change? Are we willing to pay the price for change?
Winter comes after fall. Night comes after day. Difficulty follows opportunity. Recession always comes after expansion. It's been the rhythm of life for the last 6,000 years of recorded history. So the winters are going to come. The winter of sickness, the winter of disappointment, the winter of devastation, social winters, economic winters, personal winters when your heart is smashed in 1,000 pieces and the nights are unusually long. It's simply called wintertime. But the winters are inevitable. So it has been for the last 6,500 years recorded history. You say, well, Mr. Rohn, what can I do about the winters of life?
The most important decision you can make above any on the face of the earth is deciding that no matter what happens in your life, no matter what happens, you're going to live in a beautiful state. Life is short. We don't know how short it's going to be. But if you only had a week to live, I bet you wouldn't allow yourself to suffer over a little crap that makes you crazy normally. I think you would probably spend time with those you love. You would do what you love. You'd take awe in a sunset. You'd smell the air. You would take in everything in those final moments that you possibly do. So my thing is, why wait? Right? Why wait? Why not just decide that if I start to suffer, I know the solution, because suffering is me obsessing about me. You might say, it's not me, I'm worried about my kids because they're not doing well. No, you're worried that you haven't done enough for your kids. It's about you still, right? Yes. You know, you're worried about what was done or what you should have done or what shouldn't have done. And you can end that in an instant by becoming aware of it and saying, I have made the most important decision of all. Right. I'm going to live in a beautiful state.
You know, there are many influences on us. One is the influence of the past. Some people are always pulled back by the past. Some people are always pulled aside by the distractions. But here's what's powerful. If you have a list of high purpose in your life, it pulls you toward the future. And the more powerful the purpose is, the stronger it pulls. And here's the other great advantage if you have purpose for the future. It pulls you through all kinds of challenges and all kinds of difficulties. If you don't have these strong purposes for the future, it's easy to get swallowed by a bad day. It's easy to be almost annihilated by a poor month. And it's easy sometimes to almost disappear beneath the waves of a year that goes backwards if you don't have something to pull you beyond that year. So if you want something to pull you through all kinds of challenges, all kinds of difficulties, and things that come at you, you got to have something on out there, beyond today, beyond next week, beyond next month, beyond this year, that pulls you into the future. And the clearer it is, the stronger it pulls. The more dynamic it is, the more it affects your life, your spirit, your heart, your soul. It also creates imagination. It gets your mind working on how to achieve that purpose. And if your mind will work, and if your heart works, and if your spirit works, and if you have good input, like good ideas, I'm telling you, there isn't anything you can't accomplish.
Until you're willing to plead to make your dream become a reality, your dream will be just that, a dream. See, so many people talk and talk and talk, but very few walk and walk and walk and turn their walk into a jog and their jog into a sprint, which is okay. But the problem is, they resent those of us who made the choice to put ourselves in position to hoist the banners. They resent those of us who made the choice to keep pushing, even when our skin got a little moist, because we understood that moisture, aka sweat, would eventually build, and all of that sweat equity would allow us to never sweat or worry about struggle. That sweat equity would allow us to never sweat, worry, or stress, because winners like us chose to bury all of our fears. Winners like us chose to bury all of our doubts, all of our indiscretions, and we took all of our life lessons and refurbished, repackaged, recreated, and reused all of the pain, all of the hurt, all of the failure, all of the setbacks, and turned them into get backs. And that's why we continuously get back up, and we'll always get back up. When life pops up and pops us in the mouth, we may drop and we may go down, but it's never for the count. You can bet your bottom dollar that you can count on winners like us to always come through in the clutch.
The separation of talent and skill is one of the greatest misunderstood concepts for people who are trying to excel, who have dreams, that want to do things. Talent you have naturally. Skill is only developed by hours and hours and hours of beating on your craft.